I was thrown in the pit and the wrong was done to me. And so you can stay there and you can wallow and say, oh, woe is me, which actually is blaming God, because what you should be doing is saying, God, I know you're good. I know you didn't make me to leave me in a pit. That's not why you created me. So I'm just going to wait until you deliver me, which is really what he did. He did do that. He never really did not trust God, did he? He's not really.
Joseph had amazing ability to make the best of every situation he found himself in. I mean, he was in a pit. Probably they didn't throw his coat of many colors down there in the pit with him. He probably was laying down there pretty much with nothing on, and then he gets sold into this caravan, and they're going to take care of him because they want to sell him and make money. And then he gets into a situation in Egypt that's better, and he makes the most of it.
Because why is the comparison and favoritism, what do they equate it to a pit? It's because you can get stuck. Your brain can get stuck in that train of thought, and then everything that that's where your thoughts just go to.
And you're stuck in there and you can't get out. Put in reverse and back out. I can't put it forward and zoom out. Can't fly out.
Yeah, and I think you have to recognize that God has to get you out. Okay, well, welcome back to Burnet Methodist Podcast. The idea here is we would discuss what we've been learning, what we've been being taught on, as if we're a small group. We're all in small groups, right? You guys are especially in one or two. Me too. And so we're going to build off of. We're learning about the story of Joseph. We have a big idea: is that that God builds movements out of fractured people, not flawless individuals, because you guys were just talking about that. Actually, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Jason Birdwell. Go ahead.
Yeah. Cary Hedrick.
I'm Kevin Wester.
And I'm Wes Birdwell.
Yeah, and you guys, we were just commenting, God kind of has to build movements out of fractured people, right?
I don't know where he'd find any flawless people.
Really all he has to work with.
Yeah, that's about it, yeah. Yeah.
We like to think they're in our country, probably in our state, and probably in our city, but you wouldn't find too many probably if you went and looked.
Not too many, no. That's right, yeah. Well, and we're talking about Joseph. Young man, he was 17 when he was favored by his father Jacob, and a lot of that is one thing I want to focus on is the setup. How did we get here? Why was Joseph favored?
Yeah, I think we could look back at the history of that a little bit. Joseph's mother was Jacob's favorite wife. He's probably the only woman he ever loved. But somehow he married 3 others, and so he had 4 wives, and the other 3 had all the sons. Joseph was the 11th born. The others had 10 sons. So by the time Joseph came along, his brothers had seen years of their dad favoring this wife that didn't have children and wondering what in the world was going on. And then when she had Joseph in Jacob's old age, being the 11th of 11 sons, and there were daughters too. It was kind of I don't think anybody'd be surprised that the youngest was the favorite, especially if the youngest was the only son of the favorite wife. Now, why someone would marry 4 wives is maybe another discussion we could have on another day.
We know in the beginning when this whole thing started that Joseph was enamored by Rebekah when they first got there, when he first got to where they lived. And
Rachel,
excuse me. And Laban, Rachel's father, tricked him into marrying Rachel's older sister, Leah. And so that's how he ended up with 2. And then the other 2, I don't even remember their names, but the other 2 were servants to the first 2. So,
And what's funny about that is Jacob's name means trickster, and Jacob had spent his life tricking his family, first one way, then another way, and here he comes, falls in love with this girl, and the girl's dad tricks him into marrying his sister. Mm-hmm. Turnabout's fair play, I guess, or all's fair in love and war, one or the other.
Yeah, and I trying to find my notes here, but it does look like Jacob. He was, gosh, I was trying to collect my thoughts. We're just messing with cameras and stuff and trying to get back on this. But Jacob was really set up. I'm not saying set up for failure, but actually, yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
I think what the point of the story is, from the angle that we're coming at, is jealousy in the family situation is what starts this whole thing, right, yep. Wes?
Yeah, I think the topic we're discussing is the pit of comparison. We all fall into the pit of comparison. I'm constantly comparing myself to other people, to my friends, to my family, to people I see on TV, people I go to a movie and I'm comparing. It's almost impossible to go very long in a day without comparing yourself to someone at some level. Does he have a newer truck than me? Does he have more kids than me, or does he have more land than me? Does he have? I mean, I think there's many levels we fall into the pit of comparison, comparing ourselves to other people, and sometimes we come out ahead, and sometimes we come out behind. And in our mind, if we come out ahead, that we probably think that's a good thing. Well, it's probably not a good thing, but in my selfish brain, it probably is a good thing. If I come out behind, then I'm probably going to be upset about it. And it's so obvious to Joseph's brothers that their dad cared for Joseph more than he cared for any of them, and cared for his mother more than he did any of their mothers, and it just went on and on.
Yeah, that's what I think. Okay, yeah. Also, this is my dad, who's a better dad than a lot of these dads in the Bible, so it's kind of funny that we're talking about this. But yeah, comparison is did a great job. Yeah, so but comparison is at its root. It's a distrust of God, because we're looking at our circumstances and we're saying, God, you messed up because these circumstances, you're not big enough to level it out, or you won't do it, or there's something you're missing here, God, when we should know that God is so apart from circumstances, he can change them in a moment like that. So if we're comparing, we're looking at, the earthly world, the fleshy world, how much stuff we have, who are, we're picking favorites because one of his sons did more for him, and that's why he was his favorite. Jacob. So Esau was his dad's favorite because Esau would maybe he's more manly. He was that, but he would actually bring him meals he liked, and he said something about that. So it was something that, and for his dad, he was. I'm losing my train of thought. This is frustrating. But anyways, his dad was looking at the circumstances in a selfish way and saying, I'm going to favor this person because these circumstances aren't right, and I need help. I need selfish help. Does that make any sense? I mean,
Jacob grew up in a situation where his dad favored his twin brother over him, and his mom favored him over his twin brother, and he tricked his brother and his dad with his mom's help into getting his father's blessing, so that Jacob was the favored son in God's eyes over his brother. And it just went way back. This favoritism, I dived into favoritism and the fractured nature of this family. You'd think, if I was a Jew, I would be very, very familiar with what they call the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so when you hear Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I'm a child of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, after a while you begin to think, well, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob must be pretty good guys. And then you read about them and you go, well, okay, I'm not sure what God was doing here, because Abraham was a pretty good guy. He did some silly things. Isaac was had some issues. Jacob was just messed up, and his family was even more messed up than he was. So it's really amazing to see what God did with that in the long run.
So the last straw for the brothers, it turns out that Jacob gives Joseph a special coat because he was the son of his old age, the coat of many colors. And that was like the last straw for the brothers, and they've just had enough.
Yeah, Jacob had these two dreams where everybody in the dream, his parents, his brothers, all bowed down to him. Mm. They were doing things, and the things they made were bowing down to Joseph's, and Joseph went out to check, and his father sent him out to check and see what his brothers were doing. He brings back a bad report about a couple of them. So this is just not a young man that understands how to get on people's good side. He's the favored son, and Andy also acts like it.
I think we can all kind of, know how it would be to have your little brother or your little sister go tattletale on you.
Yeah. It's not a good feeling, is it?
I used to get blamed for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you weren't guilty.
No.
No. So this favoritism concept, which began a generation or two before this, was just continued in this family. And Jacob probably really didn't know anything else. So he thought, well, I was raised in this environment, so I'm going to raise, I guess that's the way you raise families. If he probably thought it was perfectly, he was doing the right thing by favoring one son over another. And it's, I'm not sure how he would get there, but maybe in that day and age, it was a perfectly fine thing to do. Normally, the oldest son would be the favorite. Well, normally the oldest son would get everything. In this case, Joseph was the 11th son, and he seemed to be in line to get it all to his brothers, I'm sure.
I think to this day that we still, face that. Families face that. That if you go, that some parents are better at hiding the fact that they have a favorite, right? But some, they try to hide it, but you're still facing that today, and so that can cause harsh feelings, really. And so naturally, if you were going through that with your brother that was just getting all the attention, the best thing to do is find a hole and throw him in it, right?
Oh, yeah. I got a little brother 17 years younger. He didn't have to do anything. He was just perfect the way he was, and it was just not a good situation to be a part of.
Well, it seems like that things like this, like the favoritism and other things in families, seems to get worse as the generations come down, because Jacob is worse than Abraham was and worse than Isaac was. And so that's going to go to Joseph because he sees the way his dad has operated. And so now he's going to take that and maybe go a little bit further with the way he works. And that's one of the ways he gets in trouble with his brothers.
I think in the background, when you look at the whole story, what's amazing, Joseph's great-grandfather Abraham, God made a covenant with Abraham that he would bless he would grow his family into a great nation and bless all the other nations of the world through them. And so by the time Joseph comes along, the family's been living with this understanding and knowledge. Everything they did turned to gold. Abraham prospered, Isaac prospered, Jacob prospered, his brother Esau prospered. Jacob's family is prospering, and it just was something that I guess after a while it just go to your head.
Yeah, and that did lead into when Jesus showed up. The Jews just thought, well, just by blood, I am the inheritance. It doesn't matter what I do. It's just because God said I am the inheritance. And definitely, yeah, that I'm missing the word. It's entitlement. That's right, it's entitlement.
Yeah.
And so definitely Joseph seemed to struggle with that. If you're telling your brothers, living into this dream that might be true. I mean, it definitely is true, given by God. But you're telling your brothers that, I had a dream and y'all are all bowing down to me. Well, I don't think that really helped his case. I don't think that was the time or the way to do that. Also, his father, Jacob, and I was looking for the verse here, but finally got fixed up here, but it does say Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And so, reading between the lines, Jacob was a quiet man dwelling in tents. He probably didn't get a lot of his father's direction. Probably, I'm betting. It just looks like to me probably Dad and Esau are outside doing stuff. Jacob's inside with his mom, and you see him just over and over being led. He's just his mom tells him, well, here's what's about to happen. You need to go steal the birthright. There's a deeper story to that. So he's like, okay. He goes and does that. And later, one of his wives, it's his wife that can't have kids, says, why don't you take is it concubine and have a baby with her? And he's like, okay, and there's probably a deeper story to that. Just kind of like this. He didn't really develop his own, I don't know. He wasn't his own man. That's what I feel like. And he had even later, Jacob even had somebody raped one of his daughters, and then his sons went and killed the people. And so
they wiped him out.
Yeah.
Right, wiped him out. And again, he didn't really seem to do anything. It's kind of more of a passive role. And this is Israel. This is the start of all of Israel, the nation is named after him. All his sons are the 12 tribes of Israel. And so, yeah, a very imperfect person. But I did imagine that when he had that talk with his wife, that she, and when she ended up telling him have a son with someone else, I imagine that she probably came to him, probably hurt, frustrated, more like maybe it's more like venting, like, I just can't have kids. And Jacob responds and said, well, he doesn't have much self-confidence probably. He responds out of self-defense and be like, that's not my fault. I'm not God. I can't make kids. And I can imagine her probably saying something like, well, fine, then we'll fix it. I'll show you how we're fixing it. Take my servant, you have a baby. And he was probably like, okay, probably because he thought maybe that would create peace. Two, he probably wanted two wives, which that's, both bad things. But very, I think a lot of males in our society can probably relate to a lot of that, just kind of being led along, and you're supposed to be the good guy, and there's a certain standard you have to hit. But if you hit that, you have some kind of license to say like, well, I'm good enough. See, I'm not as bad as anybody else. There are a lot of other guys, but God's calling. He's got a deeper call for us. He's got a call to be men, to step up, make decisions, and not have this giant mess that he has to go back and clean up.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point there. Jacob's relationship with his dad wasn't good, and Jacob probably resented that.
Yeah.
And so in raising his sons, he was getting back at his father by favoring one of his sons over the other 10. And it just somehow in our human brains, somehow we get even, and in this, when we're in this pit of comparison, where we get even with people that aren't even around anymore, and it's not really getting even with them at all. Just in our minds, somehow it all plays out, and it's just part of the fractured nature and the damage that comes from comparing ourselves with other people at all these levels.
Well, in that day and time, there was a lot of pressure on married couples to have children, and a lot of children. And the more boys you had, the more work you had done on your place.
Workers,
and so, worker bees.
The bigger the nation would be too.
Yeah, and then the girls would grow up
Bless
to be
you.
wives to other guys, and maybe even stay in the family with their husbands, and
Which would mean alliances with other nations.
Right.
Usually marriage was, you're trying to build alliances. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. Good point.
It's a lot more power,
Probably, yeah,
more game pieces.
I don't know, God had told, in making this covenant with Abraham, God had told Abraham that his descendants would become a great nation, but that they would go into another country for 400 years, and then he would bring them back out and put them back in the promised land where they were supposed to be. So this family had this long range plan and goals, but somehow Jacob and his brother Jacob and his sons don't seem to be too aware of it. They're not aware that they're really that God's pulling all the switches and God is in control of this whole thing, while they're down here playing their games, wearing their fancy coats and throwing each other in pits and things. It's just it's really kind of curious the way it all works out.
I think it just works out perfectly for God's purpose, and that I think that all those crazy details were all the details that He put together to move the story along to get them to Egypt.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's why I just try to think about it in terms like that, but the Bible's just full of that from one end to the other. But I really do think that at times that it really is that He just needs this crazy little thing. Look how He lines up the planets and everything else for us just to be where it is. I mean,
Yeah.
do you know
pretty amazing.
how many people are praying to God?
Mhm.
And I mean, and He's can focus through all of those at once. All right. Well, anyway,
I was listening to a sermon this morning. The main topic of it was God's sovereignty, but putting God's sovereignty up against man's free will, and trying to decide, well, where does God's sovereignty stop and where does man's free will stop? You know, and there's borders there. But I mean, the ultimate decision is that, of course, God is sovereign, but I don't think that God makes things happen to people that are bad for them. But I do believe that the story background on this was Job, and I do believe that God allowed Satan to do some things so God could prove Job's faithfulness. And I think some of that's working here when Jacob, when Jacob's getting older, he starts thinking about, well, you know, I'm getting old and I've got to do something about this place, and who's going to be my heir and all this kind of stuff. He's not thinking about what God told Abraham 100 years ago about going to Egypt. And but it just turns out, you know, in God's sovereignty, that Joseph gets sold to a bunch of Ishmaelite traders and ends up in Egypt.
it's got to get to Egypt.
Got to get him there.
He's got the special skill that He gave him reading these dreams already.
Yeah.
What does it say in the Bible? That He'll prepare us in advance for what our mission is?
Yeah.
Well, He certainly prepared Jacob, didn't He?
That's right. And he was.
Joseph. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. And Cary, yeah, you were talking about circumstances and something about like God fixing things, right? What were you saying? Something about God fixing things?
Well, yeah, God is sovereign over everything. He can make things happen. He can stop things from happening, whatever He wants to do. But I think that sometimes He will allow things that aren't particularly appealing, maybe, to happen so that His ultimate plan can go forward. And maybe He had a different idea on how He was going to get Joseph into Egypt, but the brothers, the 10 brothers, kind of got in the way of that, you know, because of this rivalry and jealousy in the family. And so the 10 brothers decided they're going to kill Joseph. And so God wasn't going to let that happen, because Joseph was picked to lead this thing in Egypt. So
thank God.
God allowed it to happen and just put things in place. Maybe I don't know about the Ishmaelite traders, you know, where they came from, how they got there, or whatever. But you know, God could possibly have used that opportunity to get Joseph out of the lion's den, so to speak, with his brothers and into a safer location where he could get to Egypt.
Yeah, because, and that's exactly what I was getting at. God, we always assume God is thinking about circumstances the way we are. We're looking at our life and saying, God, my circumstances are bad. Can't you see that my life is horrible? Well, God's God is not focused on that. He's focused on developing healthy people that will actually do his will no matter what, when it's hard.
Yep.
And so you talked about building character. And so, yeah, if you don't want to be a healthy person that will follow him, well, guess what? You're going to be his tool like Satan is. It's not going to matter. Either way, God's will is going to be done. But yeah, like you're saying, God's the master chess player, and he's changing things real time. He also knows exactly what we're all going to do anyway, so that I'm sure that helps a lot. But he's changing the plan real time because we're the chess pieces. We're the assets. It's not how much land God has or how many numbers or people. It's like, no, how much character, how much godly wisdom do I have in my people? Because they're the ones that they're my kids. I want them to do things. I want them to be involved in this with me.
Yeah,
I think that the
they're
Bible,
the ones that are set up to bring the kingdom to earth, and he's going through the process of getting this multitude of families and people, like he promised Abraham. He's getting all that set up, and then and then he has to make the 400 year stay in another land, as he said, happen. But at the same time, he's got to take care of his chosen people. So it's like I say, it's a big chess game.
I think the Bible gives us a clue about understanding God's logic and the decisions that he makes. And he basically, that we're not equipped to really fully understand it. And the Bible just says that man's logic is foolishness to God. And so we just have to have some trust and just know that who would have known that day that it was a blessing that the brothers' greed turned into, okay, let's don't kill him. Those guys, let's go get some money from those guys over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God works in mysterious ways, and you don't understand it. Okay, I don't either.
Yeah, God has a plan, and I've got to, I'm aware of how God working His plan is affecting me, and if I don't think I'm coming out on top, if I think it's being too harsh on me, then I've got a bone to pick. I'd say, God, this needs to change. I can't be the fall guy for your plan, but God's plan is eternal, and it's for the good of everyone. And it's for His glory. It's not for Wes, and that's just a really difficult perspective for me to latch on to.
Well, no, that's exactly right, because the way we measure how fair it is or how much favoritism God is showing people usually is by probably how much pain we're receiving in this life. And if we think that if we're going to blame God for, God, there's a lot of pain in my life, well, guess what? His own son had the worst pain in his life.
Right.
You have the wrong measuring stick. It's not about pain in this life. Now, of course, when he rose again, he had a new body, then his life's perfect. He has no pain, right? But until then, until we rise, he's the first fruits, until we're like him, that's not the measuring stick. It's not pain. If the measuring stick is how much are we honoring God, because we know He's not going to make us suffer forever. It's not Jesus. We're not going to even suffer as much as Jesus did. That's not going to happen. But I think we just have the wrong measuring stick. And that just means we don't have an eternal perspective, because we're not thinking, we're only thinking about this life. This life is what matters. No, it's not what matters. This life is what, 70, 80, 90 years long, maybe 100, maybe 110 if you're lucky,
It's in our
or maybe
face,
unlucky. But this life is over. That whatever happens here, the pain that's here is gone. We're moving on. There's an eternal life. That's going to be forever. That's when pain matters, not right now. Sorry, I just kind of went off on a big rant.
Sign me up, brother.
I think that in addition to what you're saying, I agree with you. But one other thing is that I think one of the reasons that we are here is to further the kingdom of God. And one of the reasons we are here is to worship God and to be part of that life. Lots of us have not achieved that point yet. But I think the more that we get into that mindset to worship and to further the kingdom and to praise God and do these things, the less trouble we may have. I can't say that it will be that way, but I kind of think that's maybe part of it, and part of it is when I stray from that goal. Sometimes I get slapped pretty hard.
Yeah, God wanted Jacob's family to grow into a great nation.
Yes.
And he wanted them to be focused on him, on God as the one true God. And if they stayed where they were free to marry whoever they wanted to marry, get involved with all these crazy situations like we're talking about. The daughter gets raped and they go wipe this town out. Their brother gets a fancy coat and they sell him to. It's just all this crazy stuff going on. But he needed to get them to Egypt. Egypt was very racist. We talk about racism these days.
Yeah.
The Egyptians were very racist. They wouldn't associate with the Hebrews. That would be the last thing they'd do, or anybody associated with herds of sheep, cattle, goats. So they in Egypt, the Joseph family could grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and not be distracted by bringing outside people into the family, but stay pure, if you would, in their faith and in their bloodline, so that their focus was more on God than anyone else. So when he brought them out of Egypt, when Moses brings them out of Egypt, and God gives them the law, they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of the way we were raised, and kind of the way we've been believing all along." And so, you can see how the progression of God's plan works out through the book of Genesis and much of the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's good. I got to bring it back to something. Cary or Kevin, somebody said something about we're being in a state of worship, and that's what we're created to do.
Yeah.
If we don't worship God, we're completely missing the point of our existence. I mean, there's so many scriptures about it. Everyone who's called by my name, whom I created for my glory. So you're created to glorify God, whom I formed and made. The people whom I formed for myself, that they might declare my praise. That's what we're here to do. If we're not worshiping, well, we might think we're not worshiping, but we are going to worship something because we created, so we can't get around that.
Yeah.
We're created to find something supernatural, supposed to be Yahweh, supposed to be Jesus Christ. Reject them, we're gonna bring honor to something else.
Yeah, the golden calf kind of thing is I think is where you're getting at. If we're not focused on God's direction for our lives, then we'll focus on something that's completely off the track, and that's where the Israelites got in trouble early on in their exodus, and that's where we can get in trouble even today. By taking our focus off of what God intends for us to do.
They made that bull out of jewels and gold.
Yeah, they did.
And so that's what got everybody's attention. And so everybody was after that. But so what I'm thinking is that, nowadays that's changed somewhat 4,000 years later. But it's where people are relying on drugs, or maybe it's alcohol, or it's women. All of those are idols too.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the things that, he's talking about that just as much as anything. You don't realize it. I mean, so that's what it's turned into. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, anything that takes your focus off God and off God's
Amen.
purpose is an idol. And there's just no two ways around that. The point is that I can't speak for you guys, but I know that I have a hard time sometimes maintaining that focus on God, because I want to watch something on TV that maybe he doesn't approve of, or maybe he'd rather I be listening to a religious podcast or something like that instead of watching Bonanza. But so it just comes down to that kind of thing. I see people, hear about people all the time that get hooked on these series of movies a 1 hour segment of a 40, 50-hour movie, and they get hooked on it, and it's called binging, and they binge watch that whole thing, And so when they do that, then they have completely cut off their contact with God, and that's a bad thing.
It's really like shut your brain off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're in the binging, you're just duh.
Well, yeah, and you know what I think it really is about? It goes back to circumstances, and my circumstances aren't good, so I'm going to bail out mentally, and I'm going to medicate myself, and I think what a lot of that is.
Good point.
And the sad thing is, you talked about drugs a second ago. Very many drugs lead to something spiritual. You're connecting. I mean, there are a lot of stories that, from ayahuasca is a big one that you end up talking to something demonic half the time. So you might think you're getting to zone out. Or you might think I can zone out watching a movie about whatever. Oh, it has some bad stuff in it. Well, actually, you're making agreements with something spiritual that wants to get worshipped. Is what you're doing. That's actually what ends up happening. And so, again, you're back around full circle. You might want to just zone out. You might want to escape life, but that's impossible because you will, just like the Israelites, they were going back to something they had worshipped before, or they had seen worshipped, that there was something real that the Egyptians were interacting with, And I guess my point is God wants and deserves to be worshipped. He's not going to demand it. If you don't give him the worship, then something else is going to just suck in your worship and point you and trick you. We're just not smart enough to avoid that as humans. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in.
You hear people that have gotten into these demonic or whatever you want to call them, movies that are on TV, the streaming movies, and they're watching it, and they say, well, it's just a movie. It's just a movie. Well, yeah, it's just a movie, but there's principles and there's things in that movie that maybe you shouldn't be listening to. And
just cracking the door.
Despite the fact that is taking your focus off of God. And that's where the big problem comes.
And that's one thing about this this pit of comparison that we've been talking about. If my friend is binge watching a 50-segment TV series that's full of sex and violence, and I'm watching a 50 TV series that's just funny, then I'm better than he is because I'm not filling my brain with all this other stuff, and so I'm okay. Really, when that's why getting away from worship. When I'm worshiping, I'm aware of God's presence. I'm aware of His majesty and His glory, and I'm aware that I don't add up, and I need Him in my life to get me even a little bit closer to where I need to be, which is righteous. And it's all these other things that we get into comparing ourselves to each other don't lead us into righteousness. It's that worship of God, that daily meditation, focus on God that leads us down the path of righteousness. This is where we all need to be going, and where he wanted Jacob to take his family. And maybe he didn't do the worst job he could have done, but he certainly seems like to me he could have done a much better job than he did.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great, guys. Yeah, thank you all.
I want to know why we call it a pit. I mean, because why is comparison and favoritism, why do they equate it to a pit? It's because you can get stuck. Your brain can get stuck in that train of
can't
thought.
Get out.
And then everything that you're, that's where your thoughts just, go to.
Yeah. And you're stuck in there and you can't get out. I can't put it in reverse and back out. I can't put it in forward and zoom out.
Can't climb out.
Can't fly out.
Yeah. And I think you have to recognize that God has to get you out. And I think I was thinking about this, you have to recognize two things. Is one, like Joseph, he had some part of getting himself in the pit. If he had timed things better, he hadn't been so, maybe he hadn't been so haughty, talking about his dream, etc. Maybe he wouldn't have been thrown in the pit that soon. So you have that, like, I have some responsibility here. Also, I was thrown in the pit and the wrong was done to me. And so you can stay there and you can wallow and say, oh, woe is me, which actually is blaming God, because what you should be doing is saying, God, I know you're good. I know you're not you didn't make me to leave me in a pit. That's not why you created me. So I'm just going to wait until you deliver me, which is really what he did. He did do that. He never really did not trust God, did he? He's not really.
Joseph had an amazing ability to make the best of every situation he found himself in. I mean, he was in a pit. Probably they probably didn't throw his coat of many colors down there in the pit with him. He probably was laying down there pretty much with nothing on, and then he gets sold into this caravan, and they're going to take care of him because they want to sell him and make money. And then he gets into a situation in Egypt that's better, and he makes the most of it. He gets put in, he just continues to make. Yeah. And finally, when his brothers come and he reveals himself to them, he says, "Hey, don't worry about what y'all did to me, because God meant it for good. What you meant for bad, God meant for good." Somehow Joseph was able to keep his perspective. Keep some sort of godly perspective working in his life, regardless of what situation he found himself in.
Yeah, and a really good picture of Christ, who was basically not to blame, yet ends and is killed by us. Yet yet he's the only way we can not die. Just the way Joseph's brothers, they show up, and they're like, once they realize it's Joseph, they have to say like, "Oh my gosh, the only way we can not die of hunger is if our brother who we thought we killed, saves us." It was the most humbling thing ever. And so, obviously Joseph had a lot of character. He might have run on his mouth a little bit too much, but he did always trust God. And I know for me, when there's always things, I don't like about life, and I'm like, "God, why don't you see what's going on here? Can you fix this?" And I have to stop myself and be like, "Jason, to just give God just a little bit of credit here that, one, he's a lot smarter than you. Yes, he sees that. He gets it. Two, that's not the end place he's going to leave you. Like, I mean, even say this lasts forever, this thing, whatever thing you don't like, whatever situation, well, guess what? You're going to be with him and Jesus in heaven no matter what. But also, if you trust him, he's got a plan to get you out of it. He's just waiting for you to trust him and acknowledge him as God and that he is good. And he may not get you out of there until you do that, until you say like, "You know what, God, I'm sorry for complaining. I know you're good. So you know what? You leave me in here as long as you want, because you're developing character. Obviously, I need to get stronger. I need to glorify you better. There's something you're trying to develop here. And you know what? Go ahead and do it. It's painful, but there's a verse about that. What is the verse? It's I just had it in my mind. It was it was about despite my circumstances, I will praise you.
Amen.
Yet I will praise you. There are a lot of verses like that.
Yeah, Psalms are full of verses like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Though you slay me, I think.
Yet I will praise you. Yeah.
But Joseph thought he was dead, and he still praised God. He thought he was going to die. He thought that was the end.
That's the best time to praise, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah.
It should be all the time, but man, I think especially then, if I know I'm going.
Yeah.
Like, here I come, buddy.
Yeah, and if you get to
take me.
If you get to be that then you're ready to understand what Christ went through. He was totally selfless. He even said, "God, I don't like my circumstances. If this cup is a hard cup, but if you want me to have it, like, I'll still die for these people. Your will be done." And if we can get to where we understand that mentality a little bit better, that's where God's trying to get us, I guess, all the time, I think.
Yeah, and Jesus somehow understood that the Father was the star of the show. It's so difficult.
Yeah.
Like you were talking, when I assess my situation, if I'm not coming out ahead, if I'm not the star of the show every day, it's like, something's wrong here. This is just not right. Where Jesus understood that God was the star of the show, and what God was calling the shots, and he didn't do anything unless God wanted him to do it. He didn't say anything. He didn't hang out with anybody unless that's what God wanted him to be doing. And so he just had this amazing perspective.
That was John the Baptist, attitude too. When he sees Jesus coming up,
exactly.
he totally just deflected from him properly, deflected from himself. So
he must increase and I must decrease.
But listen,
going all the way back to the beginning, we talked about the favoritism and the rivalry and all that kind of thing. it all boils down, I think, to a longing for love. We all want love. And if I'm not getting love from a person that I want to get love from, I'm going to act up. I'm going to act out. I'm going to try to make that work. And of course, that's the wrong thing to do. But but I think that's kind of the burr under people's saddles that they're wanting to find that love.
Yeah.
And the brothers wanted to find the love in their father, and Joseph. I don't know what he was thinking, but I think that's one of the big things that boils down to the rivalry. And
and even when you hit on something there, and I'm not getting love. That's the way we look at it. Like love is something I'm supposed to consume. Like it's this thing that's awarded to me or something. Right. Like no, well, actually, you're always getting love from God, whether you know it or not. He's always loving you. Exactly. You just can't hear him. Yeah. That's the problem. Exactly. And so,
sometimes it doesn't feel like love.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel like love. It's might be discipline, which is that's hard, and that's when you got to. Well, that's what he's developing
love,
the character.
It's tough love.
It is tough. Yeah,
love,
It is tough love. Yeah, and it's I forgot what I was saying now. But we're always getting love. God always, and we have to freely. It's something we choose to give, and really we choose to receive. Sometimes I think too. We have to be humbled enough to get love, to feel loved, not be worshipped. We want to be worshipped a lot. I think we want to be like you say. Why am I not the star? Well. That means you just want to be worshipped. That's what you mean. You want to be on a pedestal and everybody else is lower. And that's what you really want if you say, I should be the star, if you're thinking that.
Well, in the, I don't remember where it is, but wanting to be loved, you have to give in order to receive. It's better to give than to receive. And so we need to give our love to people. We need to give our love to our circumstances. We need to give our love to Jesus and to God. And that right there will cut a lot of this problem stuff out that we're looking at, because we won't be worrying about getting love from somebody else or something else. We'll be getting our love from God, because that's what he's there for.
Real love, the way that it was intended.
Yes, sir.
But a few minutes ago, I kind of got the idea you were talking about. I think that one of the what does God really, it's not the only thing, but what does God really want? And this can help keep you out of trouble. Man. He wants our attention. And when we start giving our attention away, that really hurts him. He says, I'm a jealous God. And it's that distracting. I mean, the enemy's winning at that point because we're not focused on the thing that's improving our lives and making us so happy.
That's really good.
Yet we do it over and over again because people are going to, because I'm worthless and weak. Sorry, I like to say it dramatically.
That's really good, because what we focus on is what we end up worshiping. It is. So if you're focused on something, you're loving it, you're enjoying it, you're consuming it, that's what you're worshiping.
He just wants our attention.
Yeah, exactly. God.
That's where you can make up a lot of ground, Wes. Well, people could. I don't mean Wes Birdwell.
Specifically him.
Yeah, I think my idea of love, what love looks like, what it feels like, how it works out, my idea of love is different than God's idea of love. Jesus defined, he said, there's no greater love than to lay down your life for your friends. And I'm thinking, now wait a minute, how's that love if I die? Wait, can we let's think this through a little bit better, Jesus. I think you're missing something here, but actually that's the way it played out for Jesus, so.
Yeah, it's really giving up the game pieces that we think we have. We think, well, my playing cards in life, my hand I'm dealt is I got one life. Well, actually, you got to give up your pieces, because Jesus Christ has a lot better piece that he will give you, and it's always just the wrong frame of mind, like, oh, this is my only hand I was dealt. Well, Jesus has a way better hand. You got to get rid of that hand, lose this life, you'll get another one. I'm making the podcast long. You keep talking, but
And it doesn't.
You're doing good,
It doesn't
brother.
necessarily mean that you're going to give up your life. What you need to be able to do is to give your life to God, give it back to Him, so that in that gift, you're loving your neighbors, the people around you, because you relent, you agree to give up your life for the love of other people, to show your love for other people. And I mean, that's what Jesus did exactly, but it doesn't mean we have to die. It just means we have to give up our life,
And to die to ourselves.
die to ourselves.
yeah.
And Joseph seemed to get that. He got sold as a slave to Egypt. He winds up in his household, where he winds up being in charge of the whole household. The master's wife even throws herself at him, and then everything gets messed up, and he's thrown into prison, and now he's got to start all over. And then he starts working his way back up through prison, interpreting dreams and so forth, and gets himself in a good back in a good position to where when God is ready to move, Joseph's ready. And he gets called in to interpret Pharaoh's dream, and he nails it. And he not just nails the dream, but he says, and here's what you need to do to avoid losing your country during this 7 years of plenty and 7 years of good, 7 years of famine. Here's what you need to get somebody in charge of all this, so you can do all these things to prepare and make the most of it. And he not only interpreted the dream, but he had a plan worked out. I mean, Joseph made the most of every situation he found himself in. It's amazing the way his life played out. And finally, when his brothers come, he doesn't hold them against them. He realizes this is God's plan to get my whole family over in Egypt, where he can grow a great nation safely, and kind of in a cocoon, if you will, a situation where they're off by themselves and they can grow, and God just blessed them to where the Egyptians said, "Hey, we got to do something to these guys," and so they made slaves out of them. And then anyway, I worked through the whole story, but the point is, Joseph didn't mind whatever situation he found himself in. He made the most of it, and he kept his attitude right. He kept his focus on God and what God was doing, and he was ready when something happened. He was ready.
He just did the best that he could with every situation. He didn't complain about it or this or that, and it's like, I liked what you said. He was ready when the time, was to come, and so it's really amazing. But that's
As you said, Wes, by keeping his focus on God, because Joseph didn't do that stuff on his own.
Right.
He had
the plan. God had the plan.
God had the plan, and God used Joseph to make.
He was
plan.
just the mouth.
That's right.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, and he would like escape and cry after he saw his brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I know it was from pain that he had from them selling him to slavery, but I don't think it was out of literally anger. I think he was ready to lay down his life for his friends. I think he probably by then, it probably hit him, gosh, if I'd never been sold into slavery, I wouldn't be here to save my brothers. I think that they would probably realize that a lot sooner than when they showed up.
I think he was emotional and happy about it.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed.
Well, how long had
Didn't want to
he
cry
been
in front of
separated from his brothers?
I think about 17 years.
17 years. I was saying like 20 years, but
Yeah.
17 years. That's a long time.
It's funny they
It's a long
recognized
time.
him.
Things can
He recognized them.
really go bad in 17 years. And I'm thinking that he was so relieved that he could forgive his brothers and take them under his wing there in Egypt, and feed them and protect them, and then get Dad and the youngest brother and all of their families down there with them, as Wes was saying, to set them up in a good place where they could be alone. The family could be by themselves in order to build themselves up into the nation that God had predicted.
I think Joseph went away and cried in that situation a couple of times because he began to see what God was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thought, my brothers sold me to Egypt to get rid of me. And they thought, well, he's out of we don't have to worry about that little rascal anymore, little runt running around with his pretty coat. But here I am in Egypt, and I'm going to be the means of their salvation. Yeah. They're all going to come to me, and they're going to understand how all this played out and what their role in that was. And it's going to be very humbling. I mean, imagine being Joseph's brothers and having to go back to your dad for the next 17 years.
Yeah.
And understand that you had sold his favorite son into slavery, but you told him he was dead.
Yeah.
And you having to live with that guilt for all that time.
Yeah. I have to wonder
assumed he was
also when Joseph first introduced himself back to his brothers, they were all standing there, and he said, hey, I'm Joseph, the one you sold into slavery. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they remembered Joseph's dreams way back when they started all this stuff? I just wonder, if they actually remembered.
I'm sure they did. They went, oh,
wow.
Yeah.
He told us this was going to happen, and we didn't believe him.
Right.
And you know what? It does say, when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened up all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. And then in the next chapter, Jacob gets the idea to send him to Egypt. So surely one of Joseph's first thoughts was, gosh, my brothers might come, or my family, I might be able to. I'm sure he had time to plan all this and think all that and pre-process meeting his brothers or his family. I have now that I look at it, I mean, he's not stupid. Like, he knows everybody's coming. He sees everybody coming. He's like, wow, I wonder if my family's going to show up. How am I going to process that? What am I going to do? Yeah. Probably had to prepare for it. Probably. We always think he was there and like he was surprised, and his brothers walked in like, oh, I can't believe they're here. No, I bet he had time to think it out. I bet he probably had months. Who knows how long it took them to get there, right?
Yeah. There were probably other Canaanites had come already, and that's how Jacob got the idea to send the brothers down to buy food.
Mm-hmm. And Jacob's brothers had been in this pit of comparison, understanding that they had sold their brother into slavery, and they had let their dad believe that he was dead. And now here he is in front of them, alive, and now they're going to have to go back to their dad and say, oh, well, we really didn't sell him into slavery, and he really didn't get him killed and eaten. He's really living in Egypt, and he's running the whole country, and he's got he's got the controls to all the food and everything we need to survive. And I don't know how you'd go back and explain that to your dad after leading him astray, after lying to him for 7. I don't know. That just plays out kind of weird in my mind, but somehow they managed it.
Well, I think they didn't tell him. Didn't Joseph send? Okay, he had the old trick just to, I guess, to mess with them and see if they'd be honest.
He kept messing with them with the silver. And
they didn't tell their dad what they'd done for a while. They went back and said, well, he's holding Benjamin, this ruler. I think it's what they did, right? They weren't telling me it was Joseph. Or no, they didn't know. I'm sorry, they didn't know it was Joseph.
Well, they finally went back and told Joseph that there was another son, but he's dead. And he knows that this other son's not dead, and he just... it was just a hilarious situation.
Yeah, that's right. They didn't know it was Joseph until later. Yeah. Well, that's pretty good, guys. I mean, that's a pretty good discussion there. Yeah. And I'd say, hey, thanks for joining us out there, you guys. That's the whole point. Is we're supposed to get to this is real church here. Is we get together and iron sharpens iron, and we want getting a small group, getting a home group, getting what are their other words for it? Getting meet with people, talk to them about Jesus and your own faith, and do this. We're talking about here. Any other comments, Joel?
I think the word you're looking for is church.
Yeah, it's just this real church. Yeah, this is
real church.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amen. That sounds good. We're just grateful. You're going to say a little prayer for us?
Oh, sure. Okay.
I appreciate it very much, you bringing us together like this.
Yeah, man. Thank you all.
Really good.
Thank you all. Yeah. Do you want to pray for us, Cary, by any chance?
Sure.
I think that'd be good. Yeah.
I would. So, gracious Heavenly Father, we just lift up this time to you, Father, and thank you, praising your name and worshiping you in our minds and in our spirits, that you have brought us together, that you have given us your word to discuss and to try to find answers to. You've been in the discussions. You've been in the questions. You've been in the answers. And we just thank you and praise you, Father, for everything that you do for us every day. We love you, Lord. And I just pray that this message will get out to some people and help people outside this group to have a better understanding of you and the way you work. We appreciate so much what you do for us every day. And Amen.
Amen.
All right.
So listen, man, anybody out there, y'all want to come in and talk about it with us?
Come on down. Throw in the podcast. God bless y'all.
First Methodist Church of Burnet, man. We love you.
Amen.